I've been told by people that may have only seen one of my videos to go and watch videos from another researcher or go and learn from mainstream. However, I have looked at mainstream and other researchers and my research is the best. So if I've told you to go and watch this video, it's because I'd like to show you why I'm happy with my research compared to others. In other words, after researching for over 40 years, I get a little annoyed at a handful of people telling me I'm wrong, so I made this video. Sorry, no hate intended, I just want the evidence.
Okay, so before I carry on with the in-depth Anunnaki, I have to address the debunkers. Now this person here is an archaeologist called Sarah Kroenig, and just listen to what she says, and I'm going to go through where she's wrong, and I'm sorry, I have a little saying that I hate thick people. And thick people are the people that's not prepared to open their eyes. Now, she's totally blinked because the actual title of this video is Aliens Built the Pyramids and Other Absurdities. Okay, so let's go through this and make her look absurd.
That aliens from the planet Nibiru had come to Earth and established the ancient Sumerian culture in Mesopotamia. I have these conversations.
So someone had mentioned that to her, and
a lot. On planes, in bookstores, and in bars, people want to talk with me about pseudo-archaeology.
Yeah, not really pseudo, it's actually real archaeology, but you're not prepared to open your eyes.
Something that seems like archaeology, but isn't.
Or you're paid.
It involves making wild and unproven
or you're paid to debunk this kind of stuff.
Claims about the human past. Things like aliens built the pyramids.
Okay, so she's gone for the picture there of the Greys, which we know the Anunnaki are not like the Greys. The Anunnaki are actually, well, just like us really, or we're like them. So there's a first mistake there. Clearly she doesn't know much about Sumeria. And, you know, these tablets are in Sumeria, you know, which is Mesopotamia. So, wrong on that account, love.
Or survivors from the lost continent of Atlantis invented hieroglyphic writing. Now, most of us know that claims like these are unfounded.
Well, they're not unfounded, actually, because you've got the Dead Sea Scrolls that actually talk about where they landed, who they were, and actually covers it. So, and that's the Book of Enoch, which is made up of all these different things. So, yeah, the proof's there, to be honest with you. So they're not unfounded. Otherwise, if you're disregarding the Dead Sea Scrolls, then you have to disregard the Bible.
And frankly, absurd. Yet they're everywhere.
Yes, they're everywhere because it's frickin' fact, you numpty.
They're on TV shows, in movies, and in books. Think of the History Channel series Ancient Aliens.
So where she was just talking about the planet Nibiru, look, this is from NASA's own website here. Caltech researchers have found mathematical evidence suggesting that there may be a Planet X. Now, if you remember my very first video, I mentioned Planet X is the... So the last video I was just talking about this woman here. So it's not worth carrying on whatever she says, because obviously if she's disregarded the facts, then whatever else she carries on and tries to lie about is just nonsense and lies. So let's go to another one here. So this video here, Colossal Cranium. So let's have a listen to what he says.
The ancient alien theories have been widely criticized and rejected. Why? Because their methods are completely backwards from how scientific facts are found.
Okay, so going widely rejected. Now, actually, it's widely rejected by people that don't want it. So in other words, the Smithsonian, the Rockefellers, any institute that's funded by them. You see where I'm going with that. And now as for the proof, we've got here these skulls, and as we know, these skulls are not boarded, head boarded or head bound. These actually have different features to a human skull. So there's a bit of a proof there.
Instead of looking at all the data and evidence and providing proof.
Okay, let's look at the data and evidence of... Now, look, this is the evidence that they give us. The pyramids of Giza, like Egyptian pyramids, came blah 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 before them. They were royal tombs, a final resting place. Okay, no bodies were found in any pyramids across the world, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pyramids across the world, believe it or not. Not one body. However, the tombs that look like tombs, the sort of place that you find Tutankhamun, were tombs. So when they try and debunk it, they use this kind of crap here that basically says it was tombs. So straight away they're wrong, so they're following the wrong information in the first place, this video here. And if you're just talking about the pyramids alone, look at this. Even Sky News finally admits that the Great Pyramid of Giza can collect and concentrate electromagnetic energy. Now, we've probably mentioned this before on my videos anyway, where the power, there's significant power that comes from actually the top of the pyramid, and some of these still have it. The Bosnian pyramid does, where it's obviously a power source. So if Sky News is talking about that, I know Sky, we can't trust Sky, but the fact that they've actually even allowed that sort of information out there, then you've got these characters here that just follow the narrative. I know I'm going on about debunking, but
ancient alien enthusiasts piece together stories, often from very old and very unreliable sources.
Well, no, actually, the old information is actually from the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Book of Enoch.
Like, for example, when he translated the word Anunnaki, right? Now, what did I told you that the word means of royal seed, okay? But he...
Okay, now there's a contradiction there, because when I sent him the message, he said princely seeds. That was... Anyway, he replied, but it was just waffle, and he knew that I was smarter than him, so forgive me for that. But let's just look at this chap here anyway. There he is, David, Dr. David, I won't even pronounce his name. Now, he actually used to work for universities, and one of them was University of California. And those that know my videos know that I do a little bit more research. Turns out our friends, the Rockefeller Foundation, funds that same university, so there's no way he was going to be saying there's aliens, because the Rockefeller Foundation do not want people to know. David does, the one of the sons wanted people to know, but as a whole, the Rockefellers don't want people to know. So when you add the Rockefeller in with a guy that's debunking Sitchin, you know Sitchin was probably more accurate than this guy. That's my opinion. Hopefully you tell me what your opinion is. Thanks. Here's a NASA guy trying to explain why there is no Nibiru.
If this object had come through the solar system in the past, and you remember the idea is it's on an orbit of 3,600 years. If it had come through in the past, its gravity would have messed up the orbits of the inner planets. The Earth, Venus, Mars, probably would have stripped the moon away completely.
Okay, so that's him, and this is me now saying there's a planet out there called Fomalhaut B, and it goes around its star every 2,000 years, and it doesn't push the planets out. We've been watching it, and the planets ain't flying off or anything. And who's to say that Nibiru didn't already push us off our orbits, etc.? Who's to say we're now not in an orbit that we was in before? Now, you got to remember there was the planet supposedly spins on its axis. Who's to say it wasn't Nibiru that caused that? You see, this is why I hate these people from NASA that try and debunk things when they're Egypt, not the stuff you get taught in universities and on TV and stuff like that. And the reason why I say that they're wrong is because, let's just look at this. Pretty much a month doesn't go by without them admitting that their dates are all wrong. So look here, they're talking now about, and this is recent, they're talking about mummies are now actually 1,000 years older than what they believed, which pushes everything back. This is where I make a professor of ancient Egypt either look silly or a misinformation person. Okay, this was a TV series called The Rise and Fall of Ancient Egyptians. I watched it a few years back when it was on TV, and I thought, oh my god, they got so many things wrong, this can't be right. So let's have a look and dissect.
Good luck!
The Great Pyramid of Giza, final resting place of King Khufu.
Okay, wrong. There was no body found there, so she can't be 100% say that that's correct. Also, no bodies were found in any pyramids because no pyramid was a tomb. Tombs are tombs, pyramids are pyramids. So I did some research and I thought, let's see who she was, and that's her there. So then I went and looked at where she was, University of College of London. It turns out, those of you that know my videos, if you don't, go back and watch from video 1 onwards, but the Rockefellers play a big part in misinformation. Now listen to what she says in her programme about ancient Egypt, these carvings.
Some experts even believe these symbols can be vocalised. By turning the simple drawings into sounds, makes this the world's earliest known writing.
Okay, this is... She went to university, really, and she didn't even know about the Sumerian language, which actually came first. Now, this comment here is in Forbes, and they're saying that there may have been a vocal language in Africa, but of course, no one's got any proof of that because you can't. No one had tape recorders. So, basically, then they're saying, well, we're not sure if it's Egyptian or Sumerian, but if you read the Sumerian tablets, which are older, and actually talk about how Egypt was built and stuff before Egypt. Unfortunately, this person believes that this was debunked in 2013. They haven't obviously done their homework. Feel free to watch my videos and learn a little bit more, or go to ourtruehistory.co.uk and learn even more. Now, this little alien I've done videos on, and it's only got 10 ribs instead of 12, and the cranial plate's different to humans, and jaw's different, and basic eye socket's different, the whole long list. So let's have a look what they say about it. So it says here, DNA not only shows that she was human, but she belonged to the local population. So human DNA. Now, a banana has human DNA. A fruit fly has human DNA. Basically, everything has human DNA. In fact, it's not human DNA. It's just us being big-headed. It's a generic DNA. Anyway, but let's go along. And she belonged to the local population of Chile. So that means chances are she's not going to cross the ocean to go somewhere else, is she? Tiny little thing like that, bless. Well, actually, in Egypt, they found 2 mummified versions of the same skeleton. Both, again, female. And they have come up with this concocted story that they believe it was Tutankhamun, who was a kid himself, that they're his children, and they were fetuses, and even though they don't look like anything like a human, etc., etc., and that's why they were mummified. So that you can see mainstream here clutching at straws. But let's have a look at why the original. So now these have got to be fake as well if they're not, if people think they're fake. But let's have a look at who actually debunked it. So this was a guy called Gary Nolan, and he worked for the Stanford University in California. Let's have a look at Gary. There he is. He's an upstanding fellow, so I'm sure he wouldn't. He would tell us the truth, wouldn't he? Because well, who's funding the place that he worked at? Let's have a look. So Stanford University. Oh, got some funding. Wow. Okay, that's pretty cool. From oh, what's that at the top? Rockefeller Foundation. Weren't they the ones that pay for money for the Cairo Museum, the Smithsonian, other institutions? And they basically, it appears when you look deep into it, they don't want us to know our true history. Because you'll find out that the Smithsonian actually destroyed giant skeletons, and that's why people say, oh, there's no such thing as giant skeletons. They actually destroyed them and had a court case over it. So, when you put all of this together, it is not debunked, because clearly they're actually saying that it was a real skeleton just because it's got DNA in it that matches fruit flies. Ignore the word human there. So what do you think? You think, once again, ourtruehistory.co.uk has boom dropped the mic? I'd rather trust a professor who's funded in a university by the Rockefellers than some TikTok guy who thinks he knows it all. So I'm actually talking about here mummification from archaeologists. Now, they seem to believe now that they found the oldest known mummification, which is now 8,000 years ago. But the problem is, when you actually read on, they're actually just looking at photographs that were 60 years ago. So they're now ascertaining that the photographs of the images depict a mummification from 8,000 years ago, which is basically just a guess, let's be honest. And the reason why I say about the who do you trust is because if you watch my other videos, you'll see that recently archaeologists in Egypt have now said, oh yeah, mummies are probably 1,000 years before we actually thought they were. So when you keep getting misinformation, who do you trust? Look closely, you'll see there's a cavity inside the Great Pyramid. Now, the researchers, wait for it, this is from the express.co.uk, are talking about experts are proposing a cosmic ray scan of the Great Pyramid to find out what else is going on in there. Now, they keep referring to the experts, but really when you look down it says the scan project. So when you look at the scan projects, that's basically designed by and led by the Cairo Museum or University. And so when you look at the Cairo Museum, you find out that Mr. John D. Rockefeller has already been there and been dealing with them in the past, which means he's probably still dealing with them in the future. So going back to where we was here, are we going to find out the truth about what's with the scan, or are they going to hide it from us? Because if you see who's funding or who's behind all of this, then you'll realise we won't ever know. This site here, 10 interesting facts about Egypt. Let's go through a few of them, and you know they're not going to be correct. 1, the Egyptians invented the 365-day calendar. Incorrect, because Book of Enoch, which predates this, talks about 365 days, and they create the henges, which you're probably familiar with, Stonehenge, and that is an actual calendar for 365 days, so that's wrong. Number 2, the world's oldest dress was found here. That's probably correct. That's only simply because it was the most well preserved. Doesn't mean there wasn't older dresses. 3, the Great Pyramid was not built by slaves. So you think, oh, brilliant, these people know what they're talking about. And then they end up going on about the paid labourers, which there were paid people well after the pyramids were built. But the pyramids were built just after the flood, when there was hardly any people around to even help the Anunnaki build them. So I'm just running out of time, but you get the idea. These sites just make me laugh. Keep watching if you want me to prove mainstream lie. Okay, here's an article. Archaeology breakthrough, a stunning Egyptian tomb poised to reveal Pharaoh's secrets. So basically this article talks about archaeologists unearth an ancient tomb next to the Step Pyramid in Saqqara, where King Diyusha was buried inside. Now, anyone that knows anything knows there was no bodies ever found in any pyramid. So let's have a look what else people talk about. Well, then they actually say elsewhere that the body was removed by ancient thieves. In other words, because there's no body, they use the old excuse, well, it was ancient thieves that took it, and only left a mummified foot. Okay, so let's have a look even more. Now this is the actual tomb they're referring to in that stepped pyramid. As you can see there, it is a colossus thing, and as you can see, it was untouched, so somehow they managed to get in there. But let's just have a look. This is supposed to be a tomb. Now, all tombs, and proper tombs, not pyramids, have hieroglyphs around. Even if they're unfinished, they still have the hieroglyphs. In fact, the tomb that they're referring to that's next to that, these are the actual hieroglyphs there, and people can see them. But in the Step Pyramid, where they pretend that a pharaoh was buried because they don't want us to know the truth, you'll see that there is no hieroglyphs whatsoever, because no pyramid was a tomb. Our True History destroys Bill Nye. Now, I don't really know who he is too much. Apparently he's supposed to be some smart guy from the States. Now here he's trying to destroy Noah's Ark.
Mr. Ham and his followers have this remarkable view of a worldwide flood that somehow influenced everything that we observe in nature. A 500-foot wooden boat, 8 zoo...
So the reason why I say he's not too clever is because he goes through this whole video trying to debunk that the flood even happened, whereas what he should have done, instead of going from the Bible, for example, he should have went back to the original tablets. Yes, there are original tablets, and this is what he's saying the Noah's Ark looks like. Of course, anyone that's like me has gone back and researched it. You'll know that the actual boat was a round boat, which I'll get to in a second. And we know that because this guy here actually has the original tablets. So he's talking about the tablets here. Now, he is the curator of the British Museum and actually has a tablet that says Enki tells Noah, technically Noah's bedroom wall, about the oncoming, not a flood, but the tsunami that was due because of the ice shelf in Antarctica becoming loose, so that when the Nibiru came back round, it would let it go and flood, but flood as a tsunami, which makes a lot more sense. So have a listen to him.
believed in the Syrian version. There were people who stuck fast to the Bible, so you had a cube or a coffin, but of course at the same time everybody really knew what Noah's Ark looked like. It's one of these things. There's usually a giraffe looking out the window just to complete it. So in fact, Ark
See, what he's doing is making fun of people like Bill who didn't bother researching.
Superb. I'll just refresh your memory. The divine instructions specify 14,430 sutu. And this mathematician... Thanks. Extra wine afterwards. So, this mathematician, and he did it several times, I used to do it several times and get it wrong.
So basically he carries on and explains exactly what's written in the tablets. The tablets that you see there that they've got. Now, he explains exactly what they are and how they built the boat. So, unfortunately, Mr. Nye didn't bother going back and researching to see whether or not there was original text that actually describes the boat, not like he thinks it is, but actually how it was. So, Bill, sort it out. I'm happy to have a debate with people like you. I doubt if you would, but, you know, I'm more than happy. So, if anyone knows Bill and wants me to sit on this show and debate, I'm happy. I thought I'd do a few videos on Dolores Cannon, some showing where I believe she's correct and some pointing out, and hopefully you'll agree, where she's not correct. Now, as a researcher, I came across her talking about spirits, etc. in the past and believed many of what she said, and to this day I still believe she was spot on many things. However, there are some aspects such as aliens, which I'll be going through in the next few videos, where I'll show you where she's got it sort of made it up, where she didn't know the answers. So let's have a listen to this. This is her talking about spirits, or spirit guides, as I call them, because unfortunately people call them angels, and if you've watched my other videos you know there's no such thing as an angel. It is an Anunnaki name, but obviously she wasn't familiar with that because she's not done any research into Sumerian history as much as I have, and therefore she's gone along with the narrative of the word angel, and unfortunately she's done that with a few things as we'll go through. But have a listen to this.
But everyone has at least one guardian angel assigned to them when they come in. You can call it guide, guardian angel, whatever you want.
So call it guide. So what she's saying is, yes, she's not 100% sure the word angel is correct, which is fine. There are spirits and there are spirit guardians. But
some people have more than one. It depends on how complicated their life is. You can have as many as 4 or more.
I agree.
Take care of different parts of your life. But if your life changes, it goes in a different direction, some of these guardian angels will change place, and another one comes in that has more expertise in what you're working.
I agree. I've learned that.
But as a rule, you have at least one main one that stays with you your entire life.
So as you see there, I agree with some of the stuff that she's just said. Keep watching, because I will be doing some more videos with her, talking where I sort of point out where she's got things not quite right, and you'll see she actually sort of messes up on the same video, so keep watching. Guardian angels. I'm carrying on here with Dolores Cannon, who in the last video actually kind of admitted that the word angel might not be correct, because she says or whatever you want to call it. So obviously we know that the word angel in ancient Sumerian times basically means Anunnaki. Watch my previous videos if you want to know more on that.
One, when they comes into a life, is never alone. They have a guardian angel that's assigned to them.
So they have a guardian spirit, which is from plane 3 of existence. If you watch my videos, you'll know what I'm on about that.
When they come into the life, they have to be with you your entire life. The guardian angel takes care of you and is there to assist you. It cannot interfere.
I agree.
But it's there to assist you. But most people think they're alone, and they don't know there are guardian angels that are assigned to you when you come in.
So that's true. So although you have a soul group, and no, not a soulmate, you actually have a soul group of at least 6 other light being entities that join with you. And bearing in mind, when she's talking about these guardian, her words, angels, but obviously we know they're guardian spirits, what she's not actually saying is they're not there for you per se. They're there for the spirit that's with you, the light energy being that joined with you 3 to 4 months while you was in the womb, and it joins with your pineal gland. They're there to help that, not you. Obviously, if you die, then that light energy being leaves your body and doesn't learn everything it needs to learn. So technically, they're not there for you. You are just a blip in their eternity. Absolutely just a blip. But to help them, they help you, and you think they're helping you when really they're helping the light energy being that's inside you.
And they can't interfere. So they said, if you don't ask us for assistance, we don't have anyone to assist. So they like it if you can talk to them and tell them what you want, and they will take it and they will run with it. They will do miracles if they know what it is you want.
And that's kind of true, because obviously the spirit that's with you is with you to learn. That's all it is there for. And obviously if you're just sitting there doing nothing all day long and not having asked them for help in anything, you know, in relationships or anything, then they don't know how to help you for your spirit that's inside to learn from you. So I hope that all makes sense. Okay, so another video here with Dolores Cannon. This one is where I start to slightly disagree with her, and have a watch and see what you think.
Angels are just, they call the messengers.
Yeah, it's messengers because that's the actual translation in Hebrew of an angel, which really should be an Anunnaki, archangel, pilot, and so on. So, yes, you know, she's understood that there's a translation meaning messenger, but unfortunately she still uses the word angel when it should be spirit.
This is what they really are. They are living on the other side, and many of them have never wanted to reincarnate.
So you see there she's talking about the other side. So it's angels, obviously. You never hear an angel saying they're on the other side as such, but you hear dead people are on the other side, or spirits are on the other side. That's what you hear all the time. So obviously she's using the word angel, but really she's talking about spirits, because everything matches up to a spirit on the other side.
Into human form. They have no desire to. They like to stay over there and mind the store, take care of the things that are going on Earth. But they're just another being.
She's spot on there. They are a light being, just like the ones that join with us 3 to 4 months in the mother's womb. These ones, the guardian spirits, are the ones that's moved on up and learnt enough. They need to continuously learn from us, and to be able to move up the different planes of existence. And see, the ones, the guardian spirit ones, are on the 3rd level, shall we say.
It is there. And they're real. And a lot of times guardian angels are deceased relatives, or things that have gone on. And their job is, they decide, I want to take care of this person that they were close to. And
so there's a slight problem there, because obviously, as you know, with light energy spirits, beings, they have multiple lives. In other words, they go round and round and round. So it's not the same person that's been with. It's many different people. So for one of those to then come through and say, "Hey, I want to be a guardian spirit," when they reach level 3, out of all of the probably thousands or hundreds of thousands of lives that light energy being's already been with, so for one of them to suddenly push through and say, I want, over everyone else that's inside that hard drive, it's like a hard drive basically, all different memories. You could take that hard drive to loads of different computers, but it doesn't mean that the files were originally created from that other computer. It means that you can take that hard drive around with you, and that's what a light energy being is. So going along with, some of them possibly are relatives, guardian spirits, but I wouldn't say all of them are. Okay, so this video is with Dolores Cannon talking about aliens, and this is one where you'll see I vehemently disagree with her.
if there is a message from them, is that they do want us to join with them eventually, but they want us to know we are children of the stars. We have been created and taken care of since the beginning of time.
Okay, so what she's saying is we have been created since, basically, and taken care of us since the beginning of time. That doesn't work for me, unfortunately, because we, as a human species, and you shall carry on and talking about the human species as opposed to dinosaurs or anything else, bearing in mind humans have only been here a blip, a blink of an eye compared to every other species on this planet. So when she says that aliens created us from the beginning of everything, we've got actual records, written records of when humans were created, and that was because of the Anunnaki. So prior to the Anunnaki there were hominids, and prior to the hominids there was obviously other animals and all sorts of things. So for her to turn around and say what she just said, and I'm just going to play it one more time now that you understand where I'm coming from, because we've got records of things, and humans weren't here since the beginning of everything.
Children of the stars, we have been created and taken care of since the beginning of time.
Since the beginning, we haven't been. You know that. We all know that humans haven't been here since the beginning of the time. So for her to come out with that is unfortunately wrong. I mean, it's just logical. Everyone knows that humans have not been here. If we have, we would have been flying around in craft like the aliens have. You know, we're the new kids on the block.
They have no desire to harm us. They are caretakers, and they love the species because they...
I wouldn't agree they're our caretakers. I mean, if you actually look at the records and the information, it turns out the little greys only turned up 3,000 years BC, so some of them didn't even know we existed. Obviously, the Anunnaki did, because they created us 300,000 years ago, so again, not beginning of time.
They love the way it's developing. They don't like what we're doing. But if there's a message, is to let people know that they are not negative and they are here to help us. They will eventually appear in mass, but it won't be until we get our act together. And at that time...
I kind of disagree with that. I think it's only because they deal with our military and they deal with our leaders, etc. So I think it's only when our leaders tell them that we're ready, and that won't, me and you won't be here when that happens. So you see, there's some things with Dolores that I think even you can probably understand now, that she's not 100% sure on UFOs, but spirit she's very good at. This guy's name is Brian Forrester, and he is absolutely amazing at looking at old buildings and stating the facts that they are actually older than what we're being told. However, this isn't a debunking video. I just think he's got some dates wrong. He may not understand or know much about Sumerians to understand the correlation between the nuclear weapons they had and the time frame that they were used. So have a listen to this. He's talking about an explosion of some sort.
So from my estimation, this plasma ball would have been approximately 60 feet in diameter and would have gone straight down what is called the sacred original passageway.
So basically what he's saying is the intense heat from a solar flare came down, didn't really hit much of that, only hit the bottom of this. But the same solar flare would have then also took out many other places, which I'll get to in a sec. So the logic there just doesn't sit right with me. You can't just have a solar flare come and hit the bottom of something. It just doesn't work. So I don't think he was aware of the ancient tablets. Now have a listen to this.
The hieroglyphics on the left look like they were done with a machine, whereas the ones on the right look like they were done by hand. So the hieroglyphics on the left are pre-dynastic, the ones on the right are dynastic, and that gives us the strong
So what he's saying is 12,000 years ago these were done by, let's be honest, the Anunnaki, and 9,000 years ago, because that's when humans were started to be taught, anywhere from 9,000 towards now, these were done by humans. However, if you carry on watching,
possibility that hieroglyphics were not created by the dynastic people, but were an inheritance, and they were reinterpreted by the dynastic people. Same symbols, different symbolism.
So this one's extreme heat. So what he's saying is this, because it's nicely done, he believes that this was older than when people were building them. However, what benefit would there have been for the Anunnaki to start writing, hieroglyphics when no human at that point would have been able to read them? And that's going by his estimate. And also here, another one that he's showing, is again superheated, etc. In other words, burnt by some sort of explosion. Now, my dates would be 3,000 to 4,000 years ago when the Anunnaki used those nuclear weapons. And as far as I'm aware, prior to the Egyptian start, there wouldn't have been any carvings like this, because again, no one would have been able to understand how to worship if no one was taught until at least 9,000 years ago. So he's saying these were 12,000 years ago. So these are just my dates. Make up your own mind. There is no such thing as ancient aliens, according to Michael Heiser, who is a Christian author and wants to sell you books about the Bible, but doesn't want to tell you about the tablets that predate the Bible, not just in Sumerian, but Akkadian, Assyrian, and a few other different languages that come prior to the Bible. But of course, the copies of the Bible copies these older texts, but of course he doesn't want to sell you those because he probably hasn't researched those. But he also tries to debunk Sakurai Sitchin, and poorly does it, because it's not just Sakurai Sitchin that actually translates these. Look at this. Robert William Rogers, back in 1912, translated tablets, and he's called it, his title was Cuneiform Parallels to the Old Testament. So, again, nothing to do with Sitchin, and parallels to the Old Testament. In other words, one of them's older, and we know the older tablets are older than the Bible. So I don't know why this guy... Anyway. Right, so I'm just going to read some passages out to you, because I think this is really important. You should know about Adam and Eve. So we all know Adam and Eve. His real name is Adapa, and the Eve's name was Titi. Now, here's a passage here from King Anu on the home planet, Nibiru. So he's an Anunnaki, or Elohim as the race name was called. So here it's talking about Adapa. So his messenger, so that is King Anu's messenger. Now, if you read this version in the Bible, it would be an angel, because angels were messengers. So it is clearly, come on, you know. Ibarat answered him, "My lord, Adapa, the son of Ea." So Ea is also the original name for Enki before he came here, and was given the name Enki because that was, he was in charge of South Africa. So Kai being earth, Enkai. So that's why he got that name. Here's another bit here. When thou comest up to heaven and approachest the door of Anu. So according to biblical people, you can't go to heaven unless you die. And here we've got Enoch, we've got Ezekiel, and we've now got Adapa, all going up to heaven to actually knock on the door of Anu, which isn't an almighty being. So one more one, just because it's fun. So basically, Adapa met King Anu on Nibiru, and King Anu basically at this point said, right, okay, take him back. Take him and bring him back to his earth. These are tablets written thousands and thousands of years before the Bible. Take him back to his earth? Really? Which one's right? Bible or these older texts? The full version of this is on my Patreon page, if anyone's interested.
The ability to, you know, blink in and out of space.
So Randy here was talking about Bigfoots and said that they're off-world creatures, which they are. They're not from this planet. However, the ones that stuck here are stuck here from at least 10,000 years ago. The problem I've got with his comment is when he says they can blink in and out of space, they can't. They cannot do that. And the reason why they can't do that is because when they're trying to scare people away by throwing rocks at people, shaking trees, doing tree knocks, howling, and hiding behind trees, if they can blink in and out of space, yeah, they would just disappear. We wouldn't see them hiding behind trees and throwing rocks at people. So, yeah, he was right up to a point, but I think he, just like some of the others, just add their own little element to things.
Pictures and the text and things that we've seen, yes. But that doesn't...
This lovely lady is talking about some of the Anunnaki being reptilian. And if you heard there in the clip, she says, based on text. Now, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've never come across any text that say the Anunnaki were reptilian. Obviously, if you look at their statues and carvings, etc., none have scowls like a reptilian. They're all, you know, basically like us in their image. So if the person's listening, would you do me a favour, only because I can't, you know, I'd love to see it. Please don't show me David Icke or anything else like that. Please don't show me another researcher. You've said that it's in texts. Can you show me where it says that they're reptilian in race from the text, not from another researcher, please? As you said there, that would be great. I'd love to see that. Thank you very much.
Biologists and Native American Indians.
That's right. Yeah.
They both got something in common, and that is...
This person's talking about Native Indians actually seeing the moon being dragged into position, which I have a problem with because, first of all, when you look at the moon and the tides that it brings, you can see quite clearly that that's how life would have started. Stagnant water on Earth wouldn't have created the life that we've got now. We would have needed some sort of tide, which would have dated back more than the 25,000 years that the Native Americans had supposedly seen it. Now, also, there's no written record, it's just verbal, and as you know, with native traditions, you end up with all sorts of weird things that they say. Not saying they're all wrong, but they do end up with some weird things. Now, we've got ancient texts that talk about the moon over and over, and even up to 450,000 years ago, when the Anunnaki first came here, they mentioned the moon. So I don't think the moon was dragged here.
Nikola Tesla was brought to Earth as a baby from Venus.
Please don't think I'm knocking this guy that's doing the video. He's just talking about declassified, supposedly CIA documents that says Nikola Tesla was brought here as a baby from Venus. Now, the problem I've got with that is, he went to a different country, so he was, obviously his mother and father would probably disagree that he came from Venus. I've looked into Nikola Tesla quite a lot, and if he didn't go, yes, he was a smart kid, not saying he wasn't, but if he didn't go to America and meet Edison and work for Edison and work very hard in Edison's factory and learn a lot more, he would just be another person. So what... Did you see what I'm saying? There's no logic in him being from Venus, because if one circumstance where he didn't leave for America, he would just be a nobody. It wouldn't have affected us. And to be fair, although he did do some amazing things, he worked very hard at it, just like a lot of people do now. So that's my take on it. What's your take? Do you think he's from Venus and was destined to meet Edison and destined to do everything, or was it just him working hard and, and his mum and dad gave birth to him here on Earth? I've been sent a link to this gentleman's video, and the person that sent it said, take him out. I'm guessing he means make him look silly. Now, I've done videos on giants before, so I'm not gonna go over that. Obviously, if this guy doesn't understand anything about the Smithsonian destroying the skeletons in a legal court case, he'll probably say that's not a genuine document that shows that it was a legal court case and someone's knocked it up for a giggle. But anyway, so the point where I'm sort of just going to educate the person is he's talking here about this giant, and have a listen.
For this argument is there's a lack of proof, but the lack of proof doesn't mean that it's not possible. Let's examine this for a minute. Now, if giants were real, they would have to be a different race, and I'll explain why. They couldn't be Homo sapiens because we have so much variation in Homo sapiens that you just can't say that somebody who's tall is a giant. They're not a different race, they're just tall.
Okay, so the legal definition of someone who's a giant is 7 feet. So straight away, unfortunately, there's basketball players that are well over 7 feet. So you've got to be careful what you say, because obviously someone like me will just come along and point out that is a giant if you're over 7 foot legally. Now, you could argue, well, hang on a minute, what about dwarfs? Are they a different race? No, that's because in your psyche you're thinking of Dungeons and Dragons, when really people can be little people and giant people.
Tall. For example, the shortest person alive today is 61 centimeters tall, while the tallest person alive today is 251 centimeters today. That's a difference of 1.9 meters, essentially. Nobody's out here saying that those two people are different races. So we have a wide variety of heights within our species, is what I'm saying.
So why can't it be a giant then? Do you see what I'm saying? So you've just said that people can be very tall, but this can't be a Homo sapien. Why not? The giant definition is over 7 foot tall. So that's what we call giants. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Just you guys can figure out the rest.
More than a dozen striking similarities to what Plato had described as...
This person's talking about the Eye of Sahara, the Rikat structure in Africa, and saying that it matches some of what Plato said. Now, for everything that he says that matches Plato, I can then say the opposite, such as Plato says it's supposed to be 150 miles away from Athens, whereas the Rikat structure is 2,000 odd miles away. So for everything that they think they can point, and bear in mind there's no evidence whatsoever that anything was there other than just a circle. Whereas, however, if you are really interested in finding out where Atlantis is, I have, I believe, and no one's debunked me, found Atlantis. It's on it's on YouTube, or you can just go and watch it on the pinned videos on mine. And I do not go by Plato because we know... Well, watch my video and you'll see why I don't go by what Plato says. I go by other evidence. And that is why I've not been debunked. Oh, you just have to watch to the end. This person here, you're going to have a laugh. So this person here is trying to debunk Zachariah Sitchin. And he's talking to someone else. And let's have a listen to what he says. And then we'll all have a huge giggle at this person's expense.
So I want to talk about a very famous and very popular author who dabbles in fringe and especially pseudoscience, and that is Zachariah Sitchin. And so my biggest question is, he's famous for all of these translations and theories and all of this other good stuff that I know really very little about. My question...
He knows very little about. Did you hear that? So this numpty here has just said pseudoscience and all the translations, etc. So in other words, Zachariah Sitchin's wrong, and yet this person knows very little about. In other words, how does he know that Zachariah Sitchin's wrong if you know very little about it? Numpty.
The elements and gases forming together to form universes.
This person on the Gaia channel has said that there was no Big Bang, it was just light, gas, matter, etc., all creating the universe. Now, I have a problem with that because in order for something to create something, you would really need it to be in motion. In other words, you can't have gas one place and gas another and then expect them to collide. So you would need some sort of force or motion for them to collide in order for you to end up getting the universe, etc. So if everything was just stagnant, nothing would collide, therefore you would get no universe, even though there was matter before the universe, according to this lady. So I struggle with that because evolution, you had chemicals that collided with each other to create life. So I think the Big Bang still, in a way, wins. The Y-Files videos. Now, his videos are normally quite good, but have a watch of this. He's talking about here the Dyatlov Pass incident, and he's pointing to this picture here. So just watch it, and then I'll tell you my views in a second.
In 2014, the Discovery Channel released a documentary called Russian Yeti, The Killer Lives. And they used the Dyatlov incident to make their case that the hikers had disturbed the natural habitat of a Yeti. And they used this photo as evidence. Now, the doc went on to say that the Yeti was the reason the bodies were missing eyes and a tongue. Now, this photo has been authenticated. It's absolutely real. But it doesn't look much like a Bigfoot to me. And that documentary was, well, it was garbage. So, next theory.
Okay, so my problem with that is, unlike all his other videos, he doesn't say something's garbage. He actually explains why it's garbage. So this one, he's basically biased, in my opinion, because he's also forgot to mention that the fact that they actually wrote in their diary, the people that got killed, that they were being followed by something. So he's ignored that. And the reason why I think he's done that, which is a real shame because I do like his stuff, is so that he could then say the whole thing's solved on his videos and get millions of people watching. And the reason why he says it's solved is because he goes along with the conclusion that it was an avalanche, that people then spread out and they all decided to eat themselves, and, you know, luckily animals decided to eat one person's eyes but not another person's eyes, and usual stuff that doesn't quite make sense. But he's gone along with that so he can write solved. It was a real shame because when he said garbage, I realised then that he had an agenda for this video, which is a real shame because normally he would explain why that documentary was garbage, but he didn't do that, which means he was just trying for the views, which is a shame. This person here, who I've already covered in another video, says that the researchers like myself, where we say Atrahasis, Noah and Zazudra, all one of the same people, he says no, but he is biased because he is, guess what, a religious person, and he does not want Anunnaki, aliens, to be real. So I thought I'd just point him again to the actual tablets. So this tablet here is around the time that was the first writings of the actual Noah event, and originally he was called Atrahasis.
Wall, wall, read wall, read wall. Atrahasis, pay heed to my advice that you may live forever.
So it goes on talking about Noah, or Atrahasis, having to build a boat or an ark, and here, as you see, Atrahasis is also known as Noah. I'll follow this on the next video. Following on from my previous videos as to why religious people are biased, because they obviously don't want to know about Anunnaki, I've already now proved that Atrahasis is Noah, and I'm just now going to prove another name for Atrahasis. So here we have, as I was mentioning in the previous video, to do with Gilgamesh. So this was thousands of years after the original tablets, which talked about Atrahasis as Noah. So anyway, we're talking here about after the assembly had made the flood sweep over to destroy the... In other words, if you watch my Patreon videos, you'll see that there was a pin in the Antarctica, or pins, that the Enlil told his Anunnaki to go and remove to allow this ice shelf to slide off and cause a deluge, which is why a flood sweep. You don't have a sweep with a flood. Flood comes down, you don't sweep, but a tsunami you do. I'm going to run out of time again. I'll finish this on the next video. From my previous video where I was explaining that this gentleman here who said Noah wasn't the 3 different names that other researchers have said, I'm just proving my point. So here it says, the assembly made the sweep over to destroy the seed of mankind. Among us, I was the only one who was for life. That was Enki. So he was trying to save us. And so remained alive Zazudra. There it is, which is Noah, but of course Zazudra is now called Zazudra thousands of years after Atrahasis, and then a few thousand years later we get Noah. And then it says, although a human being, he remained alive. So this is actually it. This is the tablets that we all wanted to know. The assembly, this is from the Gilgamesh, which is thousands of years after the original tablets with a different name. This person doesn't seem to believe in the Anunnaki in terms of aliens, so I've put a post up. Now, bearing in mind, he is actually from the University of California, which is funded by you-know-who. So you can probably guess where I'm going with this. So, I've put a post up. Let's see if it gets deleted. And, yes, I use Mark Thomas as an alias. What was the shrine to Nibiru, I've asked? Also known as Nibruki. Shrine, a place regarded as holy because its association with a divinity or sacred person or relic marked by a building or other construction. Then I wrote the brothers Enki and Enlil, etc., called planets deities. Thus, the shrine to Nibru would be the shrine to Nibiru, aka Nibru, which I've read in translations. If it's not a shrine to their planet, then what is the shrine for? Let's see if he deletes my comment. Wow, you ain't gonna believe this. Just this morning I posted a comment on this guy's YouTube channel and it's now been deleted. And the reason why it's been deleted is because I asked a question that he couldn't answer. Now, bearing in mind, he seems to think he knows a lot about cuneiform. In fact, so much so, same guy here without the beard, actually, he's done a video saying Zachariah Sitchin debunked with Dr. Manio. However, if you can't, Mr. Manio, answer my simple question, which I did, go watch my previous video, everybody. Brilliant question. Knew he would delete it, and it's only the same day. So someone's gone in and deleted my comment because they can't answer it. Because it proves that the Anunnaki were real. Obviously, this guy doesn't want it to be. Watch my previous video, it explains it all. So, I'm afraid Anunnaki are real, because just by the fact that you had to delete my comment. Anunnaki are real, aliens were real. Please let me read you something. Even though it's from AI, you will have a giggle and religious people will run a mile. The Bible is a collection of religious texts that were written over a period of thousands of years by numerous authors from various cultures and regions of the ancient Near East. I'm getting there. Hang on, everybody. Some parts of the Bible were likely influenced by Mesopotamian, the earlier Mesopotamian and Canaanite myths and stories. So, it's a myth when Mesopotamian write it. When the Bible takes that myth and puts it into a Bible, it becomes a fact. How does that work? Stupid, isn't it? Obviously, it goes on here, says that same about the flood myth from Mesopotamia. And of course, once it goes into the Bible, religious people say it's fact. So that means if these myths are facts, that means Enlil and Enki, the Anunnaki, are facts. That's a fact. You can't have it both ways. You either take the myths or you don't take the myths. It's a fact.
So we need to be very careful when we read the Sumerian tablets and the translations of the Sumerian text, believing, oh, this is all true. No, the lies begin there already. So
this is Michael Tellinger, who I adore as a researcher. I've watched most of his videos and think he's amazing. However, he's talking about the Sumerian tablets being lies. I've done my research. The only reference I can find where they've sort of embellished things is later on in time, where Marduk, for example, says that he smashed into a planet called Tiamat and broke it up. And Gilgamesh basically hyped himself up something rotten, and the demigods of Greece, which are still part of the Anunnaki, they hyped themselves up as well. So I would like to see evidence of where they've lied. In other words, where they talk about something and then we can actually factually prove that that's incorrect, because I can't find anything like that. So yeah, that's my problem.
In search of gold. On their home planet, gold is turned into a liquid which is used to create a protective blanket around their planet's atmosphere.
Sadly, this is why, you know, although he's got 1 million followers, he hasn't actually done the research. What he's done is he's took, I don't know where he's even got the liquid part from, but the actual tablets do talk about creating it into dust particles, tiny particles, not liquid. So obviously, if you pour liquid in your atmosphere, chances are it's going to come straight down. You sprinkle gold particles in the atmosphere, and then they will probably stay there. So that even the logic just doesn't sit right with me that he said liquid. But all I was just trying to say is that there's people out there, bless them, that have great followers, but then those followers then come to me and tell me I'm wrong when I've done 40 years of research. But TikTokers that don't do any research can just say what they want, and I get told that I'm wrong. Crazy world. The New York Post sent a reporter to Skinwalker Ranch to work out whether or not Skinwalker Ranch is genuine and whether or not the people are misleading people. And I say that because I've watched all 3 of the videos, and that's the way this is portrayed. So if you want to watch them, they're on YouTube. Just type in Skinwalker Ranch New York Post. However, I have watched them and I've put a video up with it's 17 minutes long, going through my thoughts on their video on Skinwalker Ranch. And if you know me, you know I enjoy this kind of thing. And you can actually watch that on my Patreon page, free of charge. You don't have to do anything. You just go to Our True History on patreon.com. And if you want to find it, you can just go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. I've got obviously lots of other things on my website, but you can just click straight through. So ourtruehistory.co.uk, and then you can find the video on Patreon there. I do love this guy's program, the Y-Files. However, on this occasion, and I'm not doing this to knock him, I think he's great. I think he might have just bit off more than he can chew, maybe didn't do research into Sumerians. Have a listen to this.
Until very recently, nobody saw or even heard of the color blue. Well, it's because blue just didn't exist yet.
Okay, so let's go to the oldest known language, which you can't get any older than the Sumerians in the translations here, and you'll see things like blue sky. So that's clearly a colour. Now you could say, well, maybe it wasn't the word blue, maybe it was a word scarana, for example, but it still translates to blue. In which case they could see blue, they knew the word blue, same as the word blue all over the place, even from lapis lazuli, which is blue in colour. So, although I do love his programs, the Sumerians, the oldest known language, did see colour blue. I'm not doing this video to knock this gentleman, but basically he's done a video talking about the Anunnaki, and as you may know, I'm quite good on the Anunnaki.
They performed genetic experiments on different Earth animals to try to create a new slave race. Eventually, they were successful.
Yes, the screen needs
Splicing
cleaning.
DNA from the Anunnaki with cavemen called Homo erectus, a new species of...
So he says Homo erectus. Unfortunately, the reason why I'm worried is because he's going to do a whole video on the Anunnaki, and if he's got that basic, simple thing wrong to start with, as you see here, now extinct except for fragments of the DNA shot in some modern Homo sapiens. In human samples, that's to do with the Homo erectus. However, if you actually look properly at Neanderthal, you'll find that we are closest to them, and therefore it's more than likely them, and including Princeton University has admitted that black people also have Neanderthal DNA. Don't hate me, I'm not doing this to bash the guy. I really love his programs. It's just I sent a message to him because he's got a few things wrong recently, and I don't want his followers coming to me to say that I'm wrong because, you know, he's showing his face and I'm not, and therefore my research is wrong compared to his. So I'll just show you where he's got this wrong again. Another thing.
The reason, communicate, and cooperate. 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens, modern humans, appeared.
Okay, when it was actually 300,000 years ago, so he just said 200,000 years ago. And that also matches the Sumerian text of when Homo sapiens were created by the Anunnaki 300,000 years ago. So, I mean, that was, you know, I've known 300,000 years for a very long time, but it takes 2 seconds to type in when did Homo sapiens first appear, and he gets it to 200,000 years ago. Literally everyone agrees 300,000 years ago. So, if you're listening, Mr. Y-Files, feel free to contact me. I would love to help you. Sorry, guys, I'm not doing this to deliberately knock Billy Carson. It's just I get on my lives people saying to me that I should go and watch Billy Carson and learn from him. However, I've come across many things that Billy's done where I think he's wrong. So I thought I'd just show some of those now, just so that people can stop telling me to go and watch Billy. And if Billy's listening, I think what you've done sometimes, you've got information, but you kind of get it a bit mixed up. Again, not knocking you. I think you're a great ambassador for the research, but I thought I'd just show people here some of the things that you might have slightly ran the wrong way.
In the tablets, they don't actually make a human being from like dirt and dust like it says in the Bible. Like they didn't create no dirt and just make a human being like magic.
Okay, so the reason why the Bible actually mentions clay is because here is a translation of one of the tablets with Enki and Nimna, who is his half-sister. And here, it's talking about creating creatures to carry the baskets. You should need the clay from the top of the Abzu, which is South Africa, which is where and then nip off the clay and you shall bring the form into existence. So, although Billy's saying is correct, they didn't actually use the clay to create, but they actually used the clay to make the bowl, to make the genetic materials that was required inside the bowl from the clay. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
They did was there was an existing hominid already on this planet. So the Ujiji was getting ready to go to war. There was going to be a coup against the kings of Earth. So they came from...
Right, that's correct, because the Ujiji, which were the young Anunnaki, the sons of God, if you will, from the Bible, the sons of God that took unto them daughters of man. So at this point, they were on Earth. The Ujiji were on Earth because they were the ones that was mining for gold. Now listen to what Billy says.
Mars to Earth. The gods, they fell from heaven. That really, they were the angels.
So he's got it mixed up there, because obviously they were already here on Earth. They didn't actually have the away station on Mars till humans were here, because the Ujiji were mining here on Earth for gold, otherwise they would have stayed on Mars. So he's kind of got that wrong. So the Ujiji were here in South Africa mining, not Mars, until way later, and that was just an away station in Mars. So that's slightly wrong there.
They were a lower class than the level of Enki and Enlil. They didn't call them gods, they were like angels.
They wasn't angels. So basically what Billy's trying to say there is actually all in my Patreon video as hours worth, and I've called it The Lost Book of Our True History, and it shows the evidence of the Ujiji being the sons of the Anunnaki. I won't show it here because I ain't going to have enough time, but all the evidence is in there.
Circle the camp in Africa of Enlil and Enki and Anu, who was their father.
Okay, so he said that they went to Enlil's place in South Africa. As far as my research, unless Billy can show me evidence that there was, Enlil had his own abode and was staying in South Africa, he was over in Mesopotamia. So they went actually to Mesopotamia and encircled Enlil's camp.
The battle, because their working conditions are harsh. They've been working for 250,000 years on their own. They call the years in shars, so it was a lower number, but each one shar is 3,600 years. So what you added up is 250,000 years. No women was one of the biggest complaints.
Okay, so he's got that wrong again. So the no women part was when they were on the away station and they were invited down because Marduk was going to get married to a human woman. The long story that they'd already bred with. This is 200,000 years even after what he's talking about. So he's kind of got that mixed up as well. Go read the Lost Book of Enki. You'll see what I'm talking about on that. Or watch my video on my Patreon page. Satan. Who is Satan? No, not this gentleman. He is talking about who is Satan on his site, Got Questions Ministries. So I'm going to play a little bit and then I'm going to interject with my thoughts and show you how easy misled people are just by reading into things that actually is not really there.
Diving into two passages that we receive a lot of questions about, and this in Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28. And most of the questions will even have a little antagonistic bent to them, and that people, well, these are not about Satan, because Isaiah 14 is actually discussing the king of Babylon. Ezekiel 28 is discussing the king of Tyre. But when you read these passages, I think they give us a picture of a angelic being that was evidently the power behind these two kings. So let me just start by reading these two passages.
Okay, so I'm just going to skip ahead to read them. Okay, so this is Isaiah 14. How dare you, you are fallen from heaven, which is space, we know. O day star, son of dawn, how are you cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low. Okay, so that's that. Hold that thought. Now, another version of that is, how art they fallen from heaven, O Lucifer. So therefore, you could say that Satan is Lucifer. However, that doesn't actually say Satan whatsoever. So how they've made the jump from Lucifer in one version to Satan in another is beyond me. But even so, this one basically shows that Lucifer gets killed. So that means Satan's got killed. So when people in these kind of videos here say, we have to watch out, we have to be careful because Satan's coming, if you've just literally admitted there and then that he's dead, because if you can read this, it's basically he's pushing up daisies. There's creatures underneath him where he's basically dead. So if you actually want to know who Lucifer was, I've done a video on my Patreon page showing who Lucifer was actually as an Anunnaki, which makes so much more sense than this, and I actually back it up with the evidence, so as usual. Atlantis, this person, Matthew Crocs, forgive me if I pronounce his name wrong, is talking about Atlantis. Listen.
Care about Plato's story right now. Let's put that off the side. I'm so sick of people saying that that's the only reason Atlantis is around or exists because of Plato. That's not true.
Okay, so basically what he's really saying is don't listen to Plato because there's other people, etc., out there, not really many, that ended up telling Plato anyway. So let's have a look and see what he says here.
So what, like, but Plato gives very detailed descriptions of where it is.
So now he's going back to where Plato is. The problem is with that is when you read Plato's story, it's up to 4 hours long. And this was a person telling another person. I'm being paraphrasing here, but basically, I wouldn't remember one minute's worth of the details, not let alone 4 hours. However, I did do a video where I didn't use Plato, and if you go to my website,
exactly what's happening. The entity that you're worshiping and praying to and begging and everything else in that book is actually Satan. That's Enlil from the ancient Sumerian tablets.
Okay, Billy's not going to want to watch my documentary that I've done. It's 31 minutes on who Satan really was, and obviously I go through evidence as opposed to just sort of making up that Enlil was Satan, because even if you just read the Bible, you know it was an adversary of God, and obviously if Enlil was the God, then you can't have him being an adversary of himself. So yeah, unfortunately, if you're interested in who he really was, feel free on my Patreon page, patreon.com/outrohistory. Find out who Satan was. In fact, you can even find out who Lucifer was. There's so many different videos I've got on my Patreon page. So if you want the actual real evidence with evidence, so have a listen to this guy. His name's Matthew Lecrox. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. And he's on a channel called The Fifth Kind. Now, I actually thought that The Fifth Kind was supposed to be, you know, really up there with the research, etc. But this guy seems to have a few things wrong. So let's have a listen and look.
And so in Eridu, the tablets state that this Anuna god, this creator god of humanity, and they all agree. Like there's no text that's like, oh, this other supposed being is our creator, and then this one says this. No, they all say the same thing. This being known as Enki, who was later called Ea.
So Akkadian, just to help people, Akkadian also called Enki Ea. So although Sitchin says Ea was the first name, in Akkadian they also carried on using the name Ea. So this is why this guy's probably saying that.
To the Akkadian civilizations, and he's got many other names, but it talked about in this how they were non-physical, non-corporeal beings, something that is a truly powerful, sophisticated group of creator gods that goes way beyond our understanding and concepts, in my opinion, of something like an alien or something. This is something.
So, in other words, Enki, who we've got statues of, who created us in their image, who's actually got statues in the various museums around the world, who agree that it's Enki or Ea. There's another one here, and another one here. And guess what? Yeah, there's thousands of them. And when you actually start looking down to, look, here's, I'm not even going to spell that out for you. Enki poured, you see that? I'm not going to read that out. Now, if these are the people that he just said, which were basically formless, they kind of wouldn't have had all these 1,000-odd statues carved in their image, which we look like them if they were just all, you get where I'm going with this. And obviously there's so many more stories of them doing the same sort of thing. Look here, it says, I can't pronounce that, Ninhursigaja cursed the name Enki until his dying day. So clearly they die. So I don't know where he got those texts from. Matthew, if you're watching this, please show me where it says that they were basically not like what we were aware of them as. And obviously you started the thing with Eridu City, so these entities that you're basically saying would need, why would they need a city? So yeah, a bit confused. So let me know, Matthew, what you're talking about.
They would have taken us into the Atlantis ship and risen above.
This lovely lady is called Oracle 38, and as my followers know, I only sort of deal with evidence, and I have done a video on Atlantis and actually have shown evidence, more evidence than anyone else has ever shown, but it's not a spaceship according to my evidence. So if anyone's got any evidence of what the Oracle 38 is saying, that it was a spaceship, just one little bit of evidence, please show it to me. If there's no evidence, then feel free to follow me.
They're collectives, they're races of beings, and there's actually, each one of those gods is a different collective, a different race of.
So this gentleman's saying that the Anunnaki are actually a mixed race. In other words, they're from different places and they're not all the same, such as humans are all pretty much the same. This person is suggesting that, as you saw there, the word Palladians, etc. So I would like to ask for the evidence that the Anunnaki are not one particular race called gods. That's their race name, but obviously that person has not seen the thousands, millions of texts that says that, or hasn't actually caught on that that's what it says. So if you could show me, anyone, show me evidence. I'm sorry, this is what I do. This is my channel. I need evidence, and obviously the evidence I've got suggests that they're all of one race from one planet, which I've done many videos on with evidence. So if anyone's got any evidence they're all different, please show me, but you're not gonna, it's not gonna happen.
He would create a kill order. He would spray their crops to cull.
Billy's talking about Enlil, who was the god of Israel at that time. Now, what Billy probably doesn't know, because I'm the only one that's worked it out, is the same tablets that he's talking about, I've also read. It turns out they are the 10 plagues of Egypt that was actually done in Israel, but the after effects of what he's talking about and what Enlil did ended up over in Egypt. So when they blocked off the waterways, for example, all the animals and frogs migrated to the Nile. And that is why we have the 10 plagues of Egypt, only because people there were still alive writing about it, whereas the people in Israel that was getting bumped off, including with viruses, if you actually read the text properly. So this person's basically saying that God, blah, blah, blah. So I said, would you like to see proof? And he didn't reply, but he did reply to other things that other people had said. So I'm now making a video to show this person, here is the evidence that you didn't want to bother watching when I told you, would you like to see the evidence? Here it is, it's on YouTube. You can read the title, Proof and Anarchy were here. It's under Our True History. As with most people, when they say that I'm wrong and I point them to this evidence, they don't bother. So I will show the video once this person writes back with evidence saying where my evidence is wrong on this video. There's tens of thousands that's watched it on TikTok. There's 916 at the moment on YouTube. No one's told me I'm wrong. So I will look forward to this person giving evidence to show my evidence in this video is wrong. I am genuinely lost for words here. This person here, Megan Lewis, who apparently has an Eastern PhD student, is on a podcast or on a video called Problems with Zecharia Sitchin and the Ancient Alien Theory. Okay, so I'm going to play a bit of this. Now, this isn't me saying what she says, this is her.
With that kind of material. And one overarching problem that you do have to keep in mind is that a lot of the time these theories are rooted either consciously or otherwise. They're rooted in a kind of white supremacy, racist mindset.
So what she's actually saying is people like myself who have evidence for the ancient astronaut theory, it's not even a theory, it's evidence now. Well, you just heard what she said. It gets worse.
General sense is that white people didn't make these structures. If you think specifically about things like the pyramids, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia and of Mesoamerica, white people didn't do them. White people weren't doing these kinds of amazing things at a comparable time period. Therefore, indigenous people, brown people, black people could not have done these at the time that archaeology says they did.
So she's saying that people, again, like myself and other researchers, are saying because white people didn't do it, black people certainly couldn't do it. That's according to her. Wait for it.
So it must have been aliens. Okay. Completely ignoring the fact that, especially if you look at Egypt, we have records of how, like specifically instructions of how they made the pyramids. We have like super clear records of that kind of thing. We know.
Okay. That is the key. That's how... I can't use bad words because TikTok will... We have super clear records of how they built the pyramids. There is no records of how they built the pyramids. This is why I'm lost for words. So you've got someone coming on here trying to debunk everyone else. And the most basic of information is that no one knows how they built the pyramids. No one. There is nothing whatsoever to say how they built the pyramids. And she just said there's clear instructions. And so this is what we're up against. This is why people should follow me and nothing like people that have PhDs. This is why I know more than her and she's got a PhD. You guys know more than her. So please, just enough. Follow me. It's a lot easier. I don't have to keep debunking people then. You guys have asked me to ask this lady who says that we actually have evidence of how they built the pyramids.
Completely ignoring the fact that, especially if you look at Egypt, we have records of how, like specifically instructions of how they made the pyramids. We have like super clear records of that kind of thing.
Yeah, one of the ancient wonders of the world that we don't have evidence of. So anyway, this is her website with her husband. Here it says, Megan Lewis is a trained Assyriologist, meaning that she knows more about ancient Mesopotamia than anyone but one true person truly should. Our aim is to provide reliable, accurate information. So I've sent her, just about to send a message to her saying, where the hell is this information saying how pyramids were built? Because literally no one knows except for her. So I'm just about to send it now. Sent. So there we go. Let's see if we can get the answers to something. This text is regarding a video that I'd done about the lady in the background who said that we know how to build the pyramids because we was left explicit instructions on how to build the pyramids. However, she doesn't obviously know what she was talking about, but this lady has come to the rescue and said go to Live Science and look at the ancient logbook. Now, I have actually done a video on the ancient logbook way back and explained exactly what it was, but let's look at what Live Science says. Basically, Live Science is, which, trust me, I don't like Live Science. If you want misinformation, there you go. But basically, it goes on to say that the blocks that were being moved down the Nile in the actual papyrus are for the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, the Khufu's. However, there was no mention whatsoever in the papyrus of the word pyramid. So all it was a logbook way later after the pyramids were built, saying that they was just moving blocks. That's all it was.
Moses is not the real name. That's the made-up name. It really was Pharaoh Akhenaten, who was...
I struggle with this because Billy says that Akhenaten worshipped Amun-Ra. As far as I'm aware, he worshipped Aten. The other problem we've got is Moses was found in a basket, which means we don't know who his parents are. However, Akhenaten, if he was Moses, we actually know who his parents are. They're in the British Museum, and his grandparents were in the British Museum. All of his lineage from his great-grandparent has elongated skulls, including Tutankhamun, which was his son, and Nefertiti, his wife. So how he got the conclusion that Akhenaten was Moses, I would really, really like to see that. If you could point that to me, Billy, if you're watching, thanks. So this person's mentioned that Enki's son, Thoth, which would have been Ningazida, this is what this person's saying, I'm going to leave my comments till the end, was a reptilian, and Enki wasn't. So you can figure that one out yourself. So I asked for evidence of that, obviously, as I do, because it's not true from my evidence, and this person's told me to go follow someone else, but the point is, you can tell me where the evidence is because you've followed that person clearly to be able to point me to that person. So instead of going to tell me to point to someone, I can tell you where everything is that I tell you on my videos. I don't need someone else to go and tell you. So you tell me from what you learn where the evidence is for Thoth being the son of Enki and being a reptilian compared to Enki that's not. When you realise you can't give me the evidence, feel free to follow and subscribe and like and make me tea.
Enuma Elish, and another one known as the Adapa Tale of Adapa. And
this gentleman in the full video, if you want to watch it, says that before humans there were these towels. One of them was the Enuma Elish, which is correct, and the other one was the Adapa towels. Unfortunately, this person has got it kind of mixed up because the Adapa towels is referring to Adam. Adam, as in Adam and Eve, was an offspring off of Enki and a human woman. Therefore, it wasn't when only the gods were here, it was when later on when there was humans and gods. So when he said the Adapa towels was only when the gods were here, he's wrong.
Aliens were originated from an alternative universe that is 1 trillion years old.
They go on to say a hell of a lot more about the Dracos. If you've got the evidence, because you must have the evidence to put these sort of videos out, please show me where the evidence is for this. I would love to see. So I'm just doing another video on this woman. Don't worry, it's not the same clips as before, but listen to this.
Which is very tricky, and it means that when academics are approached with alien theories, they can obviously debunk most of it, but then, at least when I do it, there are a couple of things I'm like, look, I know this isn't right. I can't right now present you with evidence for why it's not right. Give me some time, I'll go away, find something. Mm-hmm. But then the responses are, well, you can't prove me wrong right here, right now, therefore I'm right.
So basically she's starting from the position of that the person that she's talking about, even though she says something's not quite right, she's starting from the position of I'm going to debunk anyone regardless of whether it's correct or not. Whereas when I do my research, I look at the research and whatever the answers are is what the answers are. But she's just literally admitted that she's happy to deliberately try and debunk instead of actually looking at the evidence. Aliens created humans. This is probably the best evidence you'll ever get. So this guy is called Irvin Finkel. He's the head curator of the British Museum. He reads the ancient tablets. He's asked in this interview whether or not he believes the Anunnaki aliens that's in the tablets that he reads, that he gets paid to read, are actually not only real, but real aliens. So let's see what he says.
Okay, and then one was, who are the Anunnaki and why are they not ancient aliens?
The Anunnaki are a group of 600 gods. They're gods. And they're well known. They exist in texts. They often get mentioned. There are two groups, the Anunnaki and the Igigi, and they move above and below.
He's really struggling here. Now he's going above and below, in other words, up into space and back. He's struggling, and I'll tell you why he's struggling in a second.
And they have various roles to play, but they are among the other deities of ancient Mesopotamia. How anybody tied that in with aliens?
So hang on a minute. He's just admit they go up and down. I'll just play that bit again for you. This is the most... So he doesn't deny their myths. He doesn't say they're myths. Doesn't deny anything like that. So let's just listen to this again. It's really important how he struggles. Because I'll tell you why in a second, because he's not allowed.
They often get mentioned. There are two groups, the Anunnaki and the Igigi, and they move above and below, and they have various roles to play, but they are...
above and below. So they're not myths. You tell me anyone that can go above.
Are among the other deities of ancient Mesopotamia. How anybody tied that in with aliens?
You just admitted that they go up. You just admitted they go up into space. I know you didn't use the words heaven or space, but we've got the actual tablets that you translated that basically say they go up and down, and you still not said they're myths.
I have no idea. But I should think anything that has the word Anunnaki in should be handled with a very long pair of tweezers until you get clearance from somebody who knows about cuneiform, who can tell within 2 minutes whether it's about something worth reading or whether it's absolute twaddle.
Okay, so this is him now mentioning that he's got a tablet that Enki tells Noah. So if he's not fictitious, if this is all real, then this tablet is also real.
I had to read this tablet when it turned out the following thing, because the god Enki, who had discovered that the world was going to be destroyed, decided it wasn't a good matter and that he picked on some human being to build.
So we've actually got all the text that he's referring to there. So he's now not saying they're myths. Now, if you look where he works at the British Museum. Now, all of these, this is just me typing in the word Enlil, and there's 441 results for Enlil. Enlil being the main god, the god of Israel, if you all know your history. So as you can see here, this is what he gets paid to look after and read, etc. Enlil. Now, there's a hell of a lot of stuff here, including images as well as carving statues, etc. of Enlil, and a temple, by the way. And, you know, obviously there's thousands of texts as well that's not shown here. So he's real, and he still didn't say they were myths. So let's just look who funds the British Museum, because that's how it goes by. It's the Rockefeller Foundation. Pretty much supports the British Museum. So if this guy said that they were aliens, he would be out of a job. And the reason for that is because the Rockefellers, if you watch any of my videos, you realise how strong they are at debunking aliens, giants, anything like that. So much so that apparently there was a court case to do with the Smithsonian's, which is pretty much run by the Rockefellers, back in 1902. Now, I know some people say it's not true, but obviously the people that saying it's not true are the Smithsonian. Come on. So I think his answer's there. He knows exactly what he's saying. But if he said it, the whole world will be in uproar, because he's literally saying that forget God, the Anunnaki were here. And obviously I've done that amazing video. If you want to know, watch my previous videos to find the one that shows the evidence that the Anunnaki were aliens. It's on my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. Scroll down. Let me just type that in now, just to show you, because I know there's people out there that say, I want to see evidence. So ourtruehistory.co.uk, go down to where it says, here is a link on the homepage, just over the 34 minutes. Now there's a lot more than that, there's hours worth of evidence. But 34 minutes you can watch here, the rest is on my Patreon page. But 34 will show you that the God in the Bible were the Anunnaki. So I think we've just, with his evidence there, and I know you're going to say, no, it's not evidence. When someone stutters and literally admits that they were real by saying they go up and down, and then says, how does anyone think that they're aliens? He's just said they go up and down. I can't go up and down. I rest. What does Dr. Stephen Greer say about aliens building the pyramids?
Well, honestly, I don't necessarily think that there were the ETs that made them.
Right, now hang on, hold on, listen to this.
The man I referred to earlier from Redstone Arsenal area, who is given material occasionally, is not always extraterrestrial. He has been given objects that are tens of thousands of years old or older, that are technological, that have been found in the ocean and elsewhere, that were of human origin.
Okay, so he says human origin. So unless it actually says made by a human, how does he know? I love Stephen Greer to pieces, but he should stay out of the ancient alien theories and stick with the modern ones. How does he know? How would you know? If you found ancient technology, how would you know it's human-made, not alien? Which ancient alien researchers can you trust? This is David Childress. Have a listen and then I'll explain why he's wrong. So there's only seems to be me left that gets everything right.
In Samaria, you have these very curious stories of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were half god, half man, who came down from the stars. They were instructing the Sumerians in various arts of civilization. They were very strange looking. They had elongated heads. They looked almost like insect type people, or what they call reptilian features in a sense, or a viper visage, as the Watchers were called in the Bible.
Okay, so he's gone by this one statue. There's two of these that's out there that seems to have some sort of squashed face, etc. And when you actually look at the Sumerian gods, they look like us because we're in their image. Now, that does not look like that. That is what David Icke had said was the Anunnaki, a reptilian. However, there's only two of these, and yet there are thousands of these with them looking like us humans. Thousands, except the fact that they were 8 to 12 foot tall. But yeah, so I don't know why there's no evidence whatsoever that these are reptilian, the Anunnaki were reptilian. None whatsoever, other than this unfortunate carving that seems to have been, you know, squished or whatever happened to it. Zachariah Sitchin said that this was actually supposed to be a female and the clay got squashed when they was making it, and this was a hairdo. He says it was Ishtar. But look, I mean, ancient aliens, otherworldly magic, yes. So I don't know, maybe just follow me. It's probably easier than listening to everyone else. I mean, you take your pick. Two of these, or thousands of these, with no description whatsoever of them being reptilian or even having elongated skulls. Yes, there's elongated skulls. Watch my other videos. But when you actually do the research, and originally I did fall for it. I fell for what these you know, researchers were saying, that they had elongated skulls, and I thought, elongated skulls underneath the turbans. But no, they don't cut their hair. But you know, I only learned that through research. So it's up to you if you want to believe researchers like David Childress. I'm not knocking him. Normally he's good, but I can't believe he's fell for this. I would like, you know, David to show me evidence, not just 1, 2 carvings out of thousands of these ones where they're actually just normal looking characters.
My name is Kaylee, and it's been about a year since a certain show on Netflix aired.
So basically she's talking about Graham Hancock's archaeology show, and this site here is called History with Kaylee, The Dangers of Pseudo-Archaeology, and I'm going to educate her.
And I thought I would make a video in which I'm going to explain the difference between archaeology and pseudo-archaeology.
And I'm going to explain the difference between numpties and liars.
And what the dangers of pseudo-archaeology are to our history.
And I'm going to explain the dangers of lying to us. Ignore her subscription. I certainly won't be subscribing because I don't trust mainstream, as you'll see in a few seconds when I educate you guys. Sorry if it's a bit longer.
So to explain in the very simplest of ways, pseudo-archaeology is fake archaeology. Pseudo comes from the Greek word pseuds, which means false or lying.
Yes, please tell me.
The prefix pseudo is used to mark something that superficially appears to be or behaves like one thing, but actually is something else. For example, pseudo-archaeologists like to pretend they're part of the history community, like they're archaeologists researching ancient times, but their work is mostly based off of grand claims, unsubstantiated by data, exaggeration of evidence, dramatic or romanticized conclusions, use of fallacious arguments, and at times, even the fabrication of evidence.
Okay, so this is someone that believes that people like myself are making it up. So let's have a look here. This is mainstream. Mainstream said that pre-Clovis sites in America weren't possible. Traditionally before 13,000 years. However, as you see there with the different dates, this is now accepted. So what was originally pseudoscience has now become mainstream because technology moves on, knowledge moves on. So we've got one here that's just made her look snumpty, maybe? Okay, Göbekli Tepe was another one where they said no way humans could be building stuff around the time that Göbekli Tepe was supposedly built, which would have been approximately 12,000 years BC. Now, they said that can't be done because there's no way it's going to be done, and you're pseudoscience. So, turns out, mainstream now agreed that Göbekli Tepe is as old as they say. So, another tick for pseudoscience. Okay, Earth's inner core has always been a solid ball. You must know that if you went to school. However, people have been saying that they believe that it's possibly an ice core or liquid. And of course, that's pseudoscience because there's no real evidence, as she's just said. However, now, actually, this is in Popular Mechanics, which is an important site. Actually, Earth's solid core isn't all that solid. So my point is, dear lady, just because right now someone's idea doesn't have all the facts, it shouldn't be cast as, and you, let's be honest, you are trying to knock it. You're trying to say that Graham Hancock's suggestions, etc., are fake. And we've just proved, I could go on and on and on. We've just proved that 3 mainstream pseudosciences are now become true. In which case, which one's pseudoscience? Is it now the pseudoscience, but yet before it wasn't, or now? You get my point. So anyway, this is why I don't trust people like her.
You want to know how come our moon doesn't have a name, yet all the other moons in the solar system do?
I've been watching him actually recently, and he's not as smart as I thought he was. Not that I've seen much of him before, but anyway, the few things that I've seen him now recently, and he keeps making mistakes. Anyway, so yes, we do have a name, even though he goes on to talk about lunar, etc. The actual original name, the people that gave all the names to all the planets were the Anunnaki. We know that because we've got the oldest text, which predates the word lunar. And we've got 2 names for the moon. One is Kingu and the other is Lahimu, which is Sumerian stroke Anunnaki language. So although he says Loon is the official one, if you want to go back and find out where, for example, Earth came from, it was Kai. Guess who gave us Kai? Anunnaki. So I don't know why he's coming out with that. If you want to go back to the original, which is, you should always go back to the original, and you can't go far wrong. Neil deGrasse Tyson says,
region of Peru. By the way, just a few days ago, I received an official invitation to Mexico to look at these 2 alien bodies personally. An official invitation. And I declined for a very simple reason. But I'd love to see the aliens. But if you're going to make an official invitation to a scientist, that invitation should not go to an astrophysicist.
So he spends the next 10 minutes saying that the people that have the bodies should be contacting biologists, etc. Not once did he, and I thought he was supposed to be smart, not once did he say, I asked whether there was other people coming at this invitation. Do you really think the people that had the Mexican bodies decided just to call you up and invite you for one day? No, they probably invited loads of people. Yes, it's David Minio again, Professor. However, if he was in a class with me, I would be teaching him, and I'll show you why I'll be teaching him. Watch this.
Get upset when their claims about ancient history are called pseudo-archaeology. Yeah, it starts with a P. What exactly is pseudo-archaeology? Well, the literal meaning is fake archaeology. That is something that is not archaeology, which is masquerading as archaeology.
So this is the guy that, if you remember, pretended that he debunked Zecharia Sitchin on a video. However, if you watch my videos, you see that I actually totally and utterly destroyed this man. In fact, I even emailed him, and he never replied. But anyway, yeah, so basically, do not trust what this guy says, because I have proved him wrong when it comes to Zecharia Sitchin. Now, I'm going to prove him wrong on pseudo-archaeology. So basically what he's doing here is he's knocking anyone that sort of throws out the ancient alien theory. Of course, I've proved it on my videos. If you go and watch them, you'll see that I have. Tens of thousands of people watched it. Not one person has given me evidence to say I'm wrong. So these are pseudo-archaeology and pseudoscience categories that are now mainstream. These were called pseudoscience. So when someone, I'll start with the word N and end with numpty. Oh, sorry. When someone pretends to know absolutely everything, which is what he's doing, he's saying that no matter what happens, as long as mainstream's got it right, therefore anyone else is pseudoscience. However, these subjects here are now mainstream. So what, it defies belief, doesn't it? So what we know now, in a year, in 2 years, in 10 years, will possibly become mainstream. In which case, people like him are once again proven wrong, that there is such a thing as pseudoscience that turns into mainstream science. So just bear that in mind, guys, if you ever see this guy on his YouTube channel. It's called World of Antiquity. I would personally follow me because I don't lie. There's no point. I'll tell you as it is.
From the land of Chem. And the Emerald Tab, it starts on Atlantis, the actual island itself. Thoth's dad sends him to the land of Chem. He calls himself an Atlantean. Atlantis was the whole planet. Earth was Atlantis. Everyone is...
So he's gone from an island. Now, to be honest with you, there's really only 2 ancient places that talk about Atlantis. One is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which the actual record that we have would have been about the 1200s from a translation of possibly older texts, and the other was Plato, who wrote stories. That's what his job was. He wrote many, many different books. And obviously, if you go by Plato's, then it's an island. But of course, now he's saying it's the whole planet. So I would like to see the evidence of this whole planet being Atlantis, because you've probably only got the information from Plato, who, as you watch my videos, you'll see that Plato made up a lot of the stuff. So Isis was the granddaughter or daughter of Marduk in Egypt. She was also the stepsister of Osiris and Seth. Now, she did not give birth to us humans. It was Nimna. Nimna. That's actually in the Oxford University translations, as well as many other translations. It's not me making up. Nimna was the person that literally I read them out to people. They're on there. You can go look them up. ISIS wasn't even around 300,000 years ago.
So ISIS says, you know what? I've had it. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to take the baby to.
Recently done a video showing Billy Carson talking about who the mother goddess of the first humans was, and he said it was Isis, and I said no, it wasn't. So I've just found another video where he actually explains why he thinks that Isis, the female Egyptian person, was the person. So let's just have a listen and I'll break it down, and maybe I'll try and help Billy out, because I think he's got it wrong.
An Egyptian, Sumerian, and she's holding up a baby, and she's...
And also have a look here, the elongated skull, that's important in a second.
It says, the first Adamu, which means first man, my hands have created it.
So he's saying there's texts in the British Museum, along with that carving, saying that Isis has created the first human. Now, I don't know about you, I don't know about Billy, I don't have an elongated skull. Now, we do know that there was elongated skulls in Egypt, not many. In fact, it was the lineage of Nefertiti and Akhenaten and Tutankhamun and his parents and their grandparents, etc. So we know that the elongated skull did come into existence way nearer to our time than 200,000 to 300,000 years ago, which is when the first Homo sapiens would have been created. So we've got a bit of a discrepancy there. So Isis, the first mentions of Isis was around this time here. Again, not 300,000 years ago, but only 2,350,000 years ago. So we're talking a humongous difference for the first time that she was mentioned. And of course, when she was first mentioned, there was already humans here. So there now seems to be a bit more of a discrepancy. And of course, when you actually look at Isis's lineage, Ra, which would have been Marduk, the sun god, in Egyptian times, and then he had some children, and they had some children, and then eventually we get down to Isis. So that would have been Marduk. Now, Marduk actually married a human woman, or Ra did. And she was a scribe. That's all written. So how did Isis create the first human when Marduk married the first, well, married a human person? That also doesn't make sense. And also here we've got actual translations from the Sumerian, not from Egyptian, because obviously he's gone by the Egyptian, where literally it says Nimna. There's loads and loads of these translations of different texts, but basically the Earth Mother Goddess, and they're talking about here how they will mix the clay, etc., create the first human. So that doesn't say Isis, that says Nimna, which was also known as Ninharsag and also known as Nintu. So I think where Billy's going wrong is, yes, there was a genetic creation done in Egyptian times with that child with the elongated skull, and that more than likely was what Isis was referring to, saying that she's created a first creature, but it's not the direct Homo sapien. It may be another Adamu. Well, technically Adamu, A-D-A-M-U. I don't know whether that's Google or YouTube translating that wrong, but either way, I don't have an elongated skull, and hopefully you don't, but the ones that did were nearer to us than 300,000 years ago when the first Homo sapiens came.
I'm sure that many of you know that the name of the God of Israel is Yahweh.
So it's a bit of a come down, isn't it, from creating the universe and even the planet that people worship you on to being called just the God of Israel. I mean, you might as well be called the God of New York or the God of something else. Now, it does say that Yahweh was to do with the Hebrews and the Israelites, and therefore, obviously, that's their version that you're reading in the Bible, which makes sense, because if he was Babylonian and Babylonian people wrote about it, then that would be to do with Marduk, who was the god of Babylonia. But of course, it's whoever wrote the Bible is what they're talking about. Now, we know that the Anunnaki called themselves gods, and they had many gods and goddesses, which was basically the race name for the Anunnaki that came here, and they're the ones that created us in their images, plural, Genesis.
Creating Asians, this, that, you know, everybody was one, then became, I'm Asian, I'm an African, I'm a...
Billy's referring to the Anunnaki after the Tower of Babel incident, which we all know that they changed their language, but Billy's saying that they actually changed the characteristics of the people, so they ended up becoming Asian, African, Indian, different colours, different cultures, and everything else. Now, unfortunately, I've never seen the evidence of that, and I would really like to see that, Billy. But what I have seen is evidence that different hominids around the world had bred with different hominids. So in other words, Homo erectus has bred with Neanderthal, humans bred with Homo erectus, and so on, which is where you get all the different styles of people. Not because the Anunnaki genetically went round and modified every single person. That I can't see happening. So if you've got any evidence of that, anyone, that Anunnaki genetically modified different races, let me see it.
Guys, I'm one of the foremost world leader in the knowledge on ancient texts and tablets, scriptures, papyrus, and cylinder scrolls. And guess what? It all...
So Billy's just said that he's one of the foremost leaders. The only problem I have with that, and no disrespect to him, is I show evidence. He does a lot of sound bites, and unfortunately the sound bites that he's done, I've picked holes in. I could probably do it virtually on every video, and I show evidence where his comments are wrong. So in order to be one of the foremost, you can't have people like myself finding errors and actually showing the evidence where your comments are wrong. Now, obviously if you showed evidence, then that would be different. So if someone's pointing out your errors, then surely that one then would be the foremost expert. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Not intentional that I keep picking holes in everything that Billy says. It's just his videos keep popping up from different people in front of me, and you know me, I like to give the evidence because I can't just make up stuff. So anyway, let's have a listen to what he says now.
Noah and the flood was written in the Emerald Tablets 4,400 years before the...
So as you know, I've done videos on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. I've read them across so many times, and I've never ever came across anything to do with the deluge in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth or the Great Flood. So I thought, let me just double check that. So I asked ChatGPT, and of course ChatGPT also says no. So along with all my other videos, I'm still waiting for evidence of the many things that I've asked Billy for. I know it really comes across like I'm picking on him, but I go by evidence, and I can't have people telling me that they've watched Billy and that I'm wrong when I give evidence. So I need evidence.
It could have been some type of a craft, or at least a DNA bank.
Billy is talking about Noah's Ark and saying that it could be a spaceship or it could have been a boat similar to this. Now that's like me saying there was a Jesus or there may not have been a Jesus. It's a bit of a flip-flop answer when we've actually got this guy here who has actually in his possession the actual original tablet from Sumerian times. And the tablet talks about how the boat was built. And there's also other translations of different texts, which is basically saying the same thing, that the boat has got to be made out of wood and the bitumen's got to be strong. And it tells you how to build the boat, basically. So why Billy was talking about possibly a spaceship when we've literally got the texts that tell us, and there's no evidence that it's a spaceship. So we might as well go where the evidence is, which is a boat. Wood.
Enoch is actually Thoth, but in the Sumerian tablets, Ningishzida.
Where do all these people come from that don't actually do any research? Enoch was not a god. Ningishzida was. Ningishzida / Thoth built the pyramids, whereas Enoch was taken around by messengers of gods. If you actually did bother doing any research, I don't know. I just give up. I was just watching this live with this gentleman, and he said that Jesus will judge you when you die, and then you kind of do your own judgment. So I wrote this most obvious question. What about the 298,000 years of people that died before Jesus was born? Do they get judgment? Obviously, those poor souls, 298,000 years, we're talking a few billion people. Obviously, he just didn't read my question out, and that's really sad, because when I do my lives, I read every single question, even if it's a hate one. So straight away, my spider senses on him avoid, from my point of view, because I will never not read anyone's question out. Regardless, I will answer it. And if I don't know the answer, I'll say I don't know the answer. I don't avoid questions. So that's my first problem. And the second problem is, seriously, what about the 288,000 years of people that had no Jesus to judge them? Where are they? So feel free to follow me. I won't lie to you guys. This lady talks about the Anunnaki, and I kind of have an idea of which researcher she sort of takes the information from, because it's actually not right. So let's have a listen to what she says here, and we'll go through where the problems are.
They tweaked our DNA so that we would not use full potential of our brain.
So basically she's saying here that the Anunnaki tweaked human or Homo sapien DNA. Unfortunately, there was no Homo sapien. That's where the missing link comes in. So basically we've got evidence that, including dark-skinned people, we have Neanderthal DNA in us, which means it was the Anunnaki's essence and Neanderthal DNA that created the Homo sapien. So she then says basically that they fused the chromosomes to make us less smart. Have a listen.
Why? Because if not, we'd be like Dr. Strange, masters of quantum physics. We would. So
she's saying that because they genetically modified chromosomes, number 23 and number 24, to make us less smart. However, this is the actual text that she's probably not even bothered reading. So this is the actual text from the translations of the ancient tablets. This is Enki talking to his mother. My mother, the creature you planned, creature that's us Homo sapiens, that will be, once they've done it, you planned will really come into existence. Impose on him the work of carrying the baskets. That's because they needed us to carry baskets for, yes, you guessed it, the gold that they were mining. Now, why make someone dumb to carry baskets when you already had someone dumb in the first place? So you didn't need to do anything. So in other words, if the Homo sapien, obviously there was no Homo sapien, but let's pretend this woman's right. The creature was smart enough already. They had to dumb it down to get this new creature to be able to carry a basket, when obviously the modern, the one that's already there would have. So you see my point. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of this woman's videos, and yeah.
There was a war that went on. Disagreements happened. The Golden Age began to fall, and these beings, these advanced beings, started going to war against each other for control and domination of humans and resources on this planet and other planets as well in our solar system. One of them being the moon and Mars. And they actually had a battle. So this battle is also well recorded in Sumerian tablets tales.
Okay, I would love to see these tablets that talk about the war on Mars and the moon. I've not seen them.
Multiple alien races out there. We shouldn't be literally tripping over it.
This video is talking about the Fermi paradox, which basically says that there should be millions of aliens and we should be all tripping over each other by now. That's the assumption from these people that's on this video. The problem with that is we do have aliens. We've been seeing aliens for a very long time. Millions of people have actually been abducted and got scoop marks and implants and missing time and regression and everything else. So we do actually have the aliens. Now, what if they don't want to be seen? Just because we might be tripping over ourselves, if they avoid being seen, then what? Then what do we do? So this is why people like this.
According to the Bible, the earth is only around 6,000 years old.
This gentleman asks another gentleman if that's true, and the guy goes, yes, it's more than likely true, because then he starts quoting things from the Bible. Problem with that is we've got things like the King's List, which show thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years of kings reigning. We've also got the Melucifer tree that's over 5,000 years old, and apparently there's one over 6,000 years old in Indonesia. Then we've got the Sumerian tablets that talk about Shahs at 3,600, and there's lots of them, which goes over the 6,000 years. Then we've got the weathering on the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids, which show at least 10,000 BC, 12,000 BCE. And then we got the fact that the Bible actually copied the older texts anyway and got things wrong. I've proved that a zillion times.
The Bible tells us that God created a perfect world. There was no death, no disease.
Actually, if you go by Young's literal translation instead of the other copies that people changed over and over, always go to Young's literal translation. You'll find that in Genesis 1, it's the gods, plural, prepared the heavens and earth, because they were cataloguing, the Anunnaki were cataloguing things for the first 6 days. And then we've got this cuneiform siphon that says that Enki tells the other Anunnaki that the 7th day will now be a day of rest. But let's go back to where this person said God created, because he's using the Bibles that are man-made and changed. Go back to Young's literal translation, plural and prepared. Didn't say created. So if you're going to do it properly, do it properly.
To mine all of the resources that they needed from planet Earth. Not to mention, the reptilians were not very happy.
This person is saying that the reptilians owned planet Earth and that the Anunnaki came here to mine for gold. Part of that's right, obviously the reptilians isn't. So I'm asking the person that's done the video, please stop making up stuff. You've not done the research, you're just copying other people that's got it badly wrong. I'm asking for evidence that the Anunnaki knew reptilians, as you just said, and I'm asking for evidence that the reptilians were upset with the Anunnaki, as you just said. When you realise you can't give me those bits of evidence, because there is none, please just stop putting videos out where people seem to think they know what they're talking about but don't, because it really is not good for the real researchers out there.
The Bronze Book was merged with a Celtic wisdom text called the Coal Book.
In his full video, he goes on to say that the text was originally this, and then copied, then transcribed, etc., etc. And then in the end, he says, go read the Colburn Bible. To me, that's more like the normal Bible that we have now, where it's a copy of older text. We know that it's got Greek copies from it, it's copied Egyptian, it's copied Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian. So in other words, if I was going to look at anything, I would always go back to the original source, not the copy of the copy of the copy, and then with people's own interpretations added to it. And that generally goes for everything in life. You always go back to the original. Don't bother going with the copies that people's man-made changed. It's just...
And for the past 40 years, I have been channeling an extraterrestrial entity that
I think it's amazing that the American military haven't taken someone like him, bearing in mind Uri Geller was actually used by the CIA for 5 years using his skills. And of course then you've got people like Phil Schneider that saw an alien, described it, and then unfortunately was unalived, if you know what I'm saying, by mysterious forces. So when you've got someone that can actually give us information about our past, our future and technologies, etc., I think it's lovely. Even though he did research back in the day, it's amazing that someone that researched this stuff ends up being the same person that gets channeled. That's great. But it's amazing the military haven't, nabbed him or done something to him. So thank you, military, for, giving us this person. Here's Billy Carson explaining who Yahweh is.
Yahweh, which we know is Enlil in the modern day Bible.
Actually, I thought the same thing, but unfortunately I did a deep load of research, and in fact the time frame doesn't even match Enlil. So when you do the amount of research that I've done, you realise it's not Enlil, which was one of the Anunnaki. It is someone different. It's still an Anunnaki. I won't spoil it for you. But if you go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk, I have done a 20-minute documentary. And I mean, if you watch my documentaries, they are very, very good. In fact, I'm the guy that told you who Jesus' real father was. I'm the guy that's told you where Atlantis was. I've done so many things, and no one's debunked them because I use evidence, proper evidence, real hard evidence. So anyway, go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk, type in Bible or whatever you want, Jesus, God, and then scroll down until you find the video that you're after, which will be who Yahweh really was. It's under Bible. There we are. Father Bennett, this is for you. Please listen carefully. So although this video here says Father Bennett being nasty to an innocent man, I'm actually talking about something different. This is someone else's video that he's replying to. So on one of my lives just now, I had a person say to me that you blocked him because he asked you about the Anunnaki and you said that you don't deal with rubbish basically on YouTube. So Father Bennett, it's time to call you out, I'm afraid. So, here, in the Bible, this is the Young's literal translation. If you don't know what that is, then you shouldn't be preaching. Now that I have known that Jehovah, which was Enki, by the way, is greater than all the gods, plural. And they call for the people, this is again further down, and they call for the people to the sacrifices of their gods, plural. You guess where I'm going with this, but keep going, keep coming with me. Because you blocked that person. I will not block people on my live chats. If I don't know the answer, I will say I don't know the answer. So this is for you. And anyone that knows Father Bennett, send him this video, because it's time that we cut the rubbish and we get straight to the point. And if thou really forget Jehovah, thy God, and hast gone after other gods and served them. Now, people pick and choose what they want from the Bible. They say, no, it's just one God. I serve the one God. I've seen you, Father Bennett, cry on your live chat saying, I serve the one God. I don't do this for money. Yeah, seen you do that. So you're going to pick and choose. So you're going to say, these are not real words, but the ones where it says one God is a real word, but plural is not. Then you'll say, I'm sure, that you'll throw in the old Holy Trinity. However, the Holy Trinity was added 200 to 300 years after the Bible was complete to get around the fact that now there's plural gods, or there was always plural gods. Obviously, Genesis 1:26, you know what I'm talking about there, when they create us in their image. Now, it's a copy. Now, the person that you blocked said, do you know about the older texts? And you obviously blocked him because you know in your heart you've got 100% faith, haven't you? No, you haven't. The majority that agrees most surviving texts and fragments on the papyrus and orchestra indicate that the Hebrew scribes borrowed from older Egyptian texts. Now, we've actually got Sumerian, Akkadian, etc. texts. So I'm just going to show you some Sumerian texts here with the word gods. This predates the Bible, and do not say it doesn't. This predates the Bible. And here we're talking about the senior gods oversaw the work while the minor gods were bearing the toil. So the minor gods were the Agigi. In the Bible, you'll know them as the sons of God that stole human women. You know the passage. The sons of God saw that the daughters of man was fair. That is the minor gods. So I'm sorry if a lot of the religious people that's listening to this didn't know all of this, but we actually have the evidence. So the Anunnaki is a name that was given to a group of alien beings which were 8 to 12 foot tall, pale skin, blue eyes, blonde hair. Funny that's where your God comes from, isn't it? Same description. But hey, they came here and they basically needed to mine for gold, to sprinkle gold particles in their atmosphere. Now, I know that sounds silly, but we need to do that now with, or Bill Gates wants to do that now with chalk particles, so it's not that stupid. So, the Agigi, which translates, if you go and look it up, you'll see that the word Agigi translates into a couple of different things, but one of them is the Watchers. Hang on a minute, it's all making sense now. So the Agigi came down and created a human species. So I'm asking Father Bennett to prove this wrong. Don't worry, I'll get there in a sec. So, here it talks about in the tablets, Enki and Nimna, about them coming up with the idea to create a race here on Earth to do the mining for them. And basically, if you go and search Enki and Nimna, the actual full translation, which is here, just type in Enki and Nimna, says, my mother, the creature, which is us, you planned will really come into existence, impose on him the work of carrying the baskets. This is the first ever language, and they're coming up with things like this. Now, it goes on to show that they actually, look, man's body can either be good or bad. Basically, this is your Bible, everybody. I'm sorry to say this. It is. So, Ivan Finkel, the head curator of the British Museum, has these tablets in the British Museum. And it's basically to do with Noah's Ark, where he reads out the translations that he's translated. He can read it himself. And Noah gets told by Enki to build a boat. In fact, the name on this tablet is Zazudra. And that's what eventually becomes Noah. So Zazudra gets told to build an ark. And it even gives a description of the ark, etc. So, the question is to Father Bennett, can you debunk the tablets that the Bible copied from? If you can't, you need to say sorry to people. If you can debunk them, please do a video showing evidence, just like I've shown. Don't shy away. Do not say BS. Do not block people that's asking you about this video. Show evidence like I do. Now, there is one more little trick that I can do for you. On YouTube, there's a video called The Lost Book of Our True History. If you look at the title here, it says, Proof Anunnaki Were Here, Proof They Were Gods, by Our True History, which is me. So if you can show evidence that this evidence is wrong, and I show a lot of evidence, if you can show evidence, then I will delete my video. If you end up showing me passages from the Bible, which is obviously a copy of the older text, and as I say, you can go through. So if anyone's interested, I go through a lot of the ancient Sumerian tablets, etc., which show you the same things as what the Bible does, but without the inconsistencies. The Bible does seem to have 144 plus inconsistencies. So if Father Bennett can watch this, and the reason why I'm doing this, Father Bennett, I don't normally call out people like this bad, but I'm disgusted the fact that you blocked someone simply because you didn't want to answer it. You did not want to answer. I spend hours, 5 hours, sometimes 6 hours on a live answering every single question out. And I've asked you a question before. I have, Mr. Bennett. I've asked you a question about, do you know about, I've even done a TikTok video, so you can go and watch it because I screenshotted it, and you ignored me. So now it's time to fess up and play the game. So I await your evidence. Only evidence. Do not come back with anything else other than evidence. I've given you the evidence.
Did you know that all blue-eyed people are related? And it's because we're all descended from one person.
This person goes on to say that in the past one person had a mutation and therefore everyone with blue eyes comes from them, from the Black Sea area, which just so happens to be where the Anunnaki were, who were pale-skinned, blue eyes and blonde hair, which is what God looks like if you want to describe them, because obviously that's their race name. The Anunnakis were gods. We're humans. So the blue eyes come from Mesopotamia, which was near the Black Sea. And the Anunnaki bred with the Homo sapiens that they'd already created 200,000 years before. And then they actually physically bred with them 200,000 years after they'd created them. And that gave us the pale skin in the Middle East with the blue eyes. So I don't know why people just make up crap instead of actually looking at the evidence, which we've got, by the way.
Decided to infuse their genetic material into the natural hominid that evolved on your planet that you refer to now as, generally speaking, Homo erectus, Homo habilis.
So he now just changed that because he's not sure. You see, Homo erectus, Homo habilis.
About 300 to 500,000 of your years ago.
300 to 500,000 years ago. Well, we know that it was 300,000 years ago, so he's again covering himself. Every evidence, including the tablets as well as science, say that the first Homo sapiens was approximately 300,000 years ago, not 300 to 500,000 years ago, because the Anunnakis turned up 450,000 years ago, so it can't be 500,000 years ago. So he's again putting two different dates in there to cover himself. This is Ismail Perez, apparently, and I've been told that by just two people, in fact, that his research is correct and mine's wrong. So I thought I'd have a look at his videos, and of course I didn't get very far without finding errors. So I thought instead of doing a long one, which I will do, his video's 1 hour and 20, so I'll probably end up debunking pretty much everything that he says. But let's just go through some of the things now.
You know, everybody in our community, when it comes to the subject matter of the Anunnaki, everybody in our community is gearing towards Enki is the good guy and Enlil is the bad guy.
So basically, that's correct, because here is the translations of the tablets where Enki created the very first Homo sapien, and there was about 6 that ended up with deformities before they managed to get the correct one, and including a woman, by the way. So yeah. Anyway, so basically here it shows that no matter how bad the description looked, weak hands, a man with broken, paralysed feet, he gave him bread. Basically, he could have just let them die. So when you start reading out what he did for these people, he even gave them jobs as well in the palaces. The one of them are the ones that could still work. available to work. So basically, yeah, compared to the other Anunnakis, which I'll go through in a sec, Enki was actually quite nice, and certainly compared to Enlil. Now, let's have a listen to what he carries on saying.
It's like 90% of our community, all right? Those are the people that are just buying the narrative without...
Yes, because it's if you actually read more than what you're just about to quote, he's going to quote one reference here, or one book.
Fully questioning the fact that perhaps these ancient records could have been messed with by the Luciferian forces, right, that took over the affairs of our world. So
basically what he's saying is these tablets here, now I don't know about you, I can't control Alt and Delete on these tablets. So he's saying that they could have been changed in the mud. 2 million of these particular clay tablets that we keep digging up now have been changed, reburied. Yeah, you get my point. So this guy's not as good as the other people seem to have said he was. Sorry to the guy if you're actually watching this. It's not my fault. This is what I do. I'm yeah, sorry.
I would like to start off by reading a summary of one of the tablets called the Atrahasis.
So basically he uses that one there and then says that we all go by that one tablet.
The Epic of the Atrahasis. Okay, so this is according to what everybody in our community is basing their so-called facts regarding the Anunnaki.
No, it's not. Well, not me anyway, because as I just pointed out here, I use different translations from various different sources. If you watched any of my videos, you'd know that. So, for example, here is some translations called the Flood Story, which we'll know what that is. This is the one of the tablets they've got. This is translations in the Oxford University website. Side wall standing at my side. Side wall, I will speak the words to you. Basically, he's telling Enki, the nice one, is telling Noah, or Zazudra as he was called back then, to build an ark. So we've actually got the other version of that with the Ivan Finkel. I'm just trying to find it now. Oh, there he is. So here, Ivan Finkel's got the actual another tablet. So I don't go by, even though the Atrahasis talks about it, we've now got the Atrahasis, this tablet that this gentleman's got in the British Museum, and the other one that I've just translated, plus obviously the Epic of Gilgamesh, etc. And if you look down there, Enki is the one he's referring to that tells Noah. So it's basically that same story. So Enki's pretty good, in my opinion, that he's actually telling us, saving us, really, to be honest with you. And here in the Atrahasis, basically they're telling that they have to create a flood, and Enki says they're basically forcing Enki, let us make far-sighted Enki swear, because Enki wanted to save us. So far it's looking pretty good. Now I must just say, the reason, Ishmael Perez, that I'm doing this video is because this gentleman here kept having a go at me, even though he had no evidence. So I'm not sure where you give your evidence from, but I kept asking him for evidence for the things he was saying, and he had none whatsoever, including, which we'll go through in a sec, some of the other bits you say. So there's another bit here where Enki saves Inanna, where no one else bothered, and Lil didn't bother. So there's another bit there, just showing you that Enki does have a heart. So let's have a look what you've got to say for yourself on this section.
From their union, the younger gods were born, and they became a noisy and unruly bunch. Apsu,
he's having to read. I mean, clearly, you guys know what I'm like. I can do a 5-hour live chat without him to read anything. But anyway.
Stirred by the noise, plotted to eliminate the younger gods. However, one of the gods, Ea, which of course later to other translations, according to other translations, right, for those that understand the Greek mythology, according to the
So just to let him know, just in case he's interested, Ea was actually the original name for Enki, because En is Lord and Ki is Earth. So he got given that name. So there's no way he would have had that name before he even came to Earth. So Ea was his actual name. Now, if you go back and look at many of the tablets, you'll see that is the case. So that's another one that is...
Bred by post sought a champion Marduk, the god of Babylon, stepped forward and offered to face Tiamat.
So here he's reading the... sounds like he's now reading a bit from the Enum Relish, but anyway, so here it's basically Marduk is telling the story that he destroyed a planet. Now, I don't know if this Ishmael knows it's a planet that we're referring to here with Tiamat, but anyway, let's have a carry on listening.
Exchange for being declared the supreme god, hence the supreme god.
So basically, Marduk destroys Tiamat and becomes the supreme god.
Think about it. There was some sort of a consolidation from polytheism into monotheism.
So just a little advert time here, because I am the guy that worked out who Yahweh really was. It's on my Patreon page. This video here is documentary, 20 minutes long. And you'll work out as you watch this with the evidence, I will show evidence, that what he's saying there, you don't have to guess because I give you the evidence for it. He obviously doesn't have that evidence. I guess I'm the only person that's ever worked that out, so it's not his fault. So let's have a look at what he says here.
Threat posed by Tiamat sought a champion, Marduk, right? This is according to these tablets, guys, to prove that Marduk, hence Belial Baal, right? Belial Baal, who is what? He's one of the fallen entities. He's one.
So Bel Marduk is another name for Marduk, but he obviously doesn't know that. But I cover that in my Patreon video on who Yahweh was.
One of these, you know, draconian reptilians that have been running the show.
So he said that Marduk is a draconian reptilian. So let's have a look at what Marduk looks like. Yes, look at that forked tongue. Wow, look at all those scowls on him. Let's have a look at another. This is just obviously a cylinder seal. It's only a few inches high. And here's another carving of Marduk. Obviously this is in stone, so it's difficult to see, but you can get the idea that it's not too dissimilar from his father, who looks like this. Now, there is no scowls on these Anunnakis whatsoever. Now, if you actually look at what the Anunnaki carvings are like, they're immaculate and brilliant, but they don't have scowls, or they don't have any lizard features whatsoever. So I have done many a video asking people to show me evidence that there were lizards or reptilians or anything like that. Of course, no one ever comes back. So Ishmael, if you are listening, please, please, and don't show me those two squashed figurines. For crying out loud, don't do that. That would be embarrassing. So obviously we've got thousands of these type of carvings for all the Anunnakis, but there is two squashed. I didn't bother showing those, but there's two squashed ones that David Icke said were reptilian, and therefore the whole of the Anunnaki were reptilian. Bearing in mind we are the offspring off of Anunnaki. I've already showed you that a second ago. In their image. So as far as I'm aware, I'm not a reptilian either. So if you can show me anything other than the two squashed carvings, now bearing in mind we do have thousands of these that show what they actually really look like. So I don't know. It's blame this guy. Don't blame me. Blame the TikTok guy. Because I normally try and I always say, are you sure you want me to watch this guy's videos? I said this to him because I will find things wrong. It's not your fault, Ishmael. It's his. I said, I will find things wrong. I can't help it. I will do a video. I've done it to Billy. I've done it to other researchers. It's not what I want to do. So people don't tell me to watch someone else's video, because I will find errors and I'll point them.
Thank you for watching this. I am happy to learn. None of the people that I stitched videos of ever came back and told me I'm wrong. But if I am wrong, and you have evidence, then I'm more than happy to learn. Thank you, our true history.